Ronnie! Over here! Hold it, stay there. Bit more to the left. To the right. Can you put the sign down a little bit? Hold on. Well then, cheers Monty. I just wanted to get the thumbnail for the video. And by the way, you wouldn't be able to pop that sign back in the office, would you? It'd save me a trip, wouldn't it?
You are an unbelievable.
Guess what?
What?
Just to keep it sweet, here's a nice macchiato for you.
Oh, all is forgiven.
Thank you, Monty. Right then, I guess we better crack on with the video, bett'n we? Ta-ra! Mk2 Ford Focus day today, folks. I know this is like a Mondeo channel, but we've just acquired half a dozen Mk2 Ford Focuses to add to our rental fleet. They're going to be replacing some of the older Mark III Mondeos. I've just been servicing a few of these cars, and I'm going around them and I'm looking at them, and I'm thinking to myself, do you know what? These ain't a bad car. I've never had much to do with the Focus, but now I've sort of like really had a close look at some of them. I'm kind of thinking it would be quite nice to own one of these. They're a nice looking car. They're probably very cheap to run. This is an actual 1.6 Zetec engine, which I shouldn't think exactly drinks much fuel, and especially of today's market when fuel prices are so high. But anyway, you know my channel is all about what could drop off the car rather than what it drives like. So I thought what I'll do, I'll walk around it and I'll kind of give you my thoughts on what could be wrong with it, what I don't like about it, what I do like about it. And as it stands at the minute, I'm quite liking it. I actually do like this one. This is a Titanium X. It's one of the top model. Anyway, I'll give you a brief history of the Focus, of what I know. The Mark I Ford Focus, which was a really radical shape, was introduced in 1998. Now they replaced the Ford Escort, and the Ford Escort was a well-established, much-loved car. But anyway, 2002 came around. They facelifted the Mark I Focus. If you blinked, you probably wouldn't even notice it, but they fitted the front indicators into the headlights and a little tweak on the grille, and that's probably about it. 2003, bingo. They introduced the Mark II Focus. Pretty different shape to the Mark I, even though it still looks like a Focus if you know what I mean. And then you had to wait to 2007 till you get the facelifted Focus. Now this particular Focus, at first glance, wouldn't look that much different to the actual predecessor, but the headlights are the main distinguishing factor. These headlights are more funkier, they're more modern, they brought the Focus into the new age, if so to speak. And the bumper, the bonnet, in fact nearly every body panel on this facelifted Focus is kind of like been changed and modified in one way or another. So it has been quite a radical change, although they've been a bit more conservative with their styling. Anyway, what I'm going to do, let's have a walk around, have a look inside, then we'll go underneath and I'll rant on about what could fall off it or what can't. Let's go. I'll just have a quick walk around the top half first. But I do like them headlights. They do sort of like look very modernish, especially when you compare them to the pre-facelifted model, which looks a little bit dated now. And that bonnet, you get a nice chrome strip along the front edge, and believe me, I'm partial to a bit of chrome, even though it's plastic. Nice set of alley wheels, chrome wheel nuts. The Mk2 used to have the indicators, the side repeaters on the wing. Now they've fitted them into the door mirrors. It's not a bad shape, to be honest with you. Colour coded door handles. I didn't point out there, but the mirrors, they have colour coded covers. This particular model has got like a fairing spoiler on the back window. Very nice, with integrated stoplight. Another thing I noticed on the fuel, they've got the easy filler, so you don't actually have a fuel filler cap you've got to undo and drop on the floor and lose. That was another addition. They've still maintained the high brake lights and indicators, but look at this, titanium. I think that's a good name. It's a catchy name to sell a car. It sounds good. Although it's a bit dark in here, guys, believe me, the boot space is pretty damn good. you can certainly fit your shopping in there. And the seats, they do fold down. So you've got like a 60-40 split with the seats. And I'll tell you something, there's ample headroom in there. It's like, although this isn't as big as the Mondeo, like the Mark IV Mondeo, there's still plenty of room. I mean, I'm not exactly a big person. I'm quite small, but I'm fitting in here like a child. So, yeah, you can easily fit 3 passengers in the back with ease. So, not bad at all. One thing I'm not keen on, to be honest with you, is all this plastic, grey plastic. It reminds me of Toyota, Nissan. I'm not a sort of fan of that, but the doors are certainly a little bit more heavier than what they were on the Mark I Focus. They feel a bit more solid. That's actually a nice door shutting action. Yeah, it feels like it's made well. Rear wiper washer. Oh yes. What have we got on the passenger side? This being a titanium, you get nice little silver inserts on your inner handle pulls. Look at this. It's a nice car. The trim is quite nice. It's very pleasing. Let me come round to the driver's side. Oh, that shuts well. And let's have a little sit inside it. By the way, this particular car, being like the top model, they introduced this on this facelifted model. It's the keyless one. So you've got an actual push button start here. I'll be honest with you, I am not a fan of push button starts. I prefer the proper ignition key. You can put in the ignition lock and turn it. I don't like these button things, but anyway, it is what it is. Let's have a quick look around. What have we got? Look at that. Look at that switch pad. Oh, it's too dark. That's nice. It looks good. That's for your mirrors and all 4 windows, and to isolate your rear windows. The steering wheel looks very nice as well. You've got your cruise control. You've got your other buttons for your radio control. And also, this particular car, it's got a DAB radio in it, and not every car has got that. Air conditioning. You've got this kind of carbon fibre effect It's not real carbon fibre, by the way, but it looks nice. Heated windscreen as well as heated rear screen. You've got your buttons here, well, little scroll wheels. These are for your heated seats. I'll turn the side lights off. It's a little bit dark in here, I'm sorry about that. It's early in the morning. This is an automatic model, which, oh shudder. The reason we have automatics here is because these are rental cars and the Americans rent these. That's the only reason. They like their automatic cars. But yeah, it's very well equipped. The controls are like just enough, not over the top. Nice dials. It's always nice to have a dial you can turn for your heater controls. I much prefer the dials than the actual buttons to take the heating up and down and set the ventilation where you want to set it. Glove box is pretty damn spacious in there. You've got sun visors. They don't illuminate when you open the flaps, but you've got a little light up there that you have to open with a switch. And also, obviously, you've got your interior light up here, also with your little reading lights to either side. So I can't complain. It's quite a nice car to sit in, and not to forget the actual fascia. It looks high quality. It's well done. It's nice. I like it. It's a very, very pleasing fascia. And as for the instrument cluster, it looks quite nice. It seems to fit in nicely with the rest of the fascia. I quite like the dials. They're just right. They're not over the top. There's not too much information there, and it just looks nice. I will say though, throughout the Mk2 Focus range, and probably the Mark 1 as well, these instrument clusters have been problematic to say the least. I believe the circuit boards, the soldered joints can crack and cause all manner of problems. One big one, namely, is the car's failure to start. However, here in the UK there are certain companies like ECU Testing and AC Tronics that do specialise in repairing these instrument clusters very quickly. So, not a big deal if they do go wrong. There is someone out there that will fix them. Anyway, let's pop under the bonnet and see what kind of engine we've got. See, one annoying thing about these keyless keys, so to speak, is if you want to open the bonnet, you've got to actually take the spare key out of this fob. And you've got, there's a little lever there you've got to flick down, and then you can pop the key out like that. Anyway, let's get this bloody bonnet open. You have to flip your bonnet badge up to get to your bonnet lock. There is a cable behind this lock which goes to your bonnet latch. They can break after so long and become troublesome. But if you go to eBay, there's plenty of repair kits on the market, and they're not a bad thing to change either. So you flick it to the left once to open it the first stage, then you flick it to the right to open it the second stage. This is the 1.6 litre petrol Zetec engine. They've been around for many years. They are a tried, tested and proven engine. And to be honest with you, if you service these engines correctly, they will look after you. They're an ever such a good little engine. Pretty lively as well. However, I shall point out a few little bits and pieces that are worth noting. Down here by your inlet manifold, there is a breather hose which goes onto your crankcase ventilation valve. They can split and cause you all kinds of running issues. Your rocker cover have a gasket on it. These gaskets can get hard and flattened over time, especially if you've got a car that's done over 100,000 miles. And they can leak oil down the back of the engine. And you will smell the burning oil on the exhaust, which you'll know it's time to replace your rocker cover gasket. While I'm here, there's quite a bit to say actually about these rocker covers and what's around them. You have high tension leads going onto your spark plugs. I know they're out of style these days, but this was 2007. So be prepared to replace your high tension leads every now and again. They do deteriorate. Your scuttle panel here has a rubber seal. These seals do tend to come out like that very easily. Rainwater will run off this scuttle and it will go straight on top of your spark plug leads, and that water will get down where your spark plugs are and cause you misfires. Believe me, it's a very, very common problem. Also, there are a couple engine core plugs sitting down in the cylinder head next to your spark plugs. If you don't have ample antifreeze protection in your car, the water in your cooling system can rot them core plugs out, and obviously coolant will seep past the core plugs around your spark plugs and once again give you a misfire. That's another common problem to watch out for. Your cam belt is behind this cover here, and this is probably the most expensive serviceable item on this engine you're going to come across. I couldn't exactly tell you what a garage would charge you to replace the cam belt, but if you can imagine, your cam belt and water pump is probably going to cost you the best part of £100 plus whatever the labour is going to be. Apart from that, there isn't a great deal to say. You'll have a spark plug replacement, air filter replacement, make sure your coolant's okay, power steering. There isn't a whole lot more that goes wrong with these engines. So apart from just the basic servicing, they're a good engine, and everything bolted to them doesn't tend to really go wrong. So I haven't got anything much more negative to say really. So what I'm going to do, I think we'll pop the car up in the air and have a little look underneath. Okay, I'm going in. What I'll do is I'll start at the front here, driver's front, and I'll work my way round to the back. Here's one thing to note. The lower suspension arms, I guess I better start here, the rear bushes, they can get worn out quite seriously. And when they get worn out, the actual front wheels will go bump, 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 bump like that, backwards and forwards. And you can feel it when you're braking. So that's just one thing to note. Track rod ends, anti-roll bar drop links, they all get worn out and knocking noises. It's pretty common on the Ford Focus. Nothing to worry about though. They've got a nice little panel there to stop the rainwater and everything getting splashed up onto your auxiliary belts, which is a nice little touch. This one we've just replaced the oil filter on and engine oil. Got a nice big fan there. Your air conditioning fan is in front of that main radiator. Oh yes indeedy. Automatic gearbox, I can't really tell you about them. As far as I know, I've had no faults with the autos. I had a Mark 1 Focus that had an automatic that had lost first gear. That's about it. But all the Focuses I've seen with the auto gearboxes, they've done well. I haven't really had any problems with them, so I can't say they're a bad box. I don't really know for sure. Where are we? Front drive shafts, they do pretty well. You may get the odd CV boot knocked out, split and leaking. Not a very nice job changing CV boots. A dirty, messy, greasy job, but there you go. You've got your catalytic converter right up there, which is part of the actual manifold. So if you have to change that, I mean usually that'd be quite a high mileage car for the catalyst to be actually knackered. So I shouldn't think that's an expense you're going to come across anytime soon. But actually looking underneath this car, there isn't really a great deal to see, if you know what I mean. I know on the Mark 1 Focuses, if I come out to the side here, they used to get corrosion on the outer seals, especially around the back bits here and sometimes at the front. You'd get holes here in the seal. These Mark 2 Focuses, they put a plastic panel there. Maybe that's to cover up the corrosion. I don't think so though. I've not actually come across a Mark 2 Focus with any corrosion on the seals yet, so they're doing pretty well. Plus them little covers, they're an added little feature. They're quite nice. So I shall carry on underneath. Get the old centre jack out of the way. Brake pipes. As of yet, I have not come across one of these cars with rotten brake pipes. Maybe on the Mark 1, but not the Mark 2. Another thing, up here, if I can shine my light, you've got your rear trailing arms, and there's some trailing arm bushes right up the front of that arm. These bushes on the Mark II, they've like beefed them up. So as the Mark I, the bushes would get worn out and they were a horrible job to change. The bushes on these Mark IIs are stronger bushes and they last ever so well. I've not come across any of them trailing arm bushes that have needed replacement yet. So that's a good thing. I have, however, come across some rear wheel bearings on these that do need changing. They can get a bit noisy, but once again, they're a pretty straightforward job to change. They're like 4 bolts at the back here, if you can get to them. They're a little bit tricky, but you can do it. These anti-roll bar drop links, just there, they can get worn out and give you all kinds of knocking noises. The rear springs, they're common for braking, normally at the ends. I will say, the actual bolt, like here, if you have to undo that to lower the arm to get the spring out, they can become ever so seized in there. So just be warned, you could have a bit of a problem, and you don't really want to be unbolting the arm from these inner bolts, because these are where you do your rear wheel alignment, and you don't really want to alter that. But I have had cases where you can't get the bolt out, you've had to cut this one off and you have to replace the entire arm. It's just one of those things. So if you love your car that much, it might be worth taking that bolt out and putting some copper grease on it. But yeah, apart from that, it's pretty straightforward suspension under here. Independent rear suspension, can't complain. These tailpipes though, this is another little niggly thing, it's no big deal. There's an exhaust hanger, they rot. The hanger rots where it goes onto the exhaust tailpipe and they break off quite frequently. You just have to get someone with a welder and weld the hanger back on. So there you go. Oh, here's another thing. Your exhaust heat shields. They're held on by little 10mm monkey metal screws or nuts. The actual heat shields tend to corrode around the screw, around the nuts, should I say. And then they fall off and they rattle. They fall on top of the exhaust and they rattle like hell. So, especially here by this middle box. Yeah, or you can take these nuts off if you can get them off and put a bigger washer on them, then put the nuts back on. That's the best way to get around it rather than replace the actual heat shield itself. But no, apart from that, corrosion, like I said, really is a non-issue at the minute. Brake pipes, I've not had any rotten brake pipes. As far as the suspension goes, it's just general bits and pieces like roll bar links, maybe a shock absorber worn out if you're lucky. Well, unlucky should I say. They're a pretty reliable car, if you know what I mean. There isn't that much to go wrong with them. So, like I said, if you were to buy one of these cars, and I shouldn't think they cost a great deal to actually purchase, you could probably pick up like this one here is a 59 plate. And on today's market, where second-hand cars are, well, they've been half gone up in price at the minute, you'd probably get something like this for maybe 3.5 grand, which I know is a bit overpriced, but when you consider what you're getting for the money, you're probably getting a car, if it's been looked after, that's going to do you very well. Anyway, I'm going to bring the car back down to the ground. So there you go. You know, if you go back to 1998 when the Mark I Focus was launched, despite its radical shape, which was a bit of a chance taken by the Ford Motor Company, it paid off, didn't it? They sold a lot of cars. It became an instant success. And today, all these years later on, the Ford Focus, well, it's just a household name. And to be honest with you, I like it. I actually do like it. I could quite easily drive one of these around as my personal car. I wouldn't mind at all. So I'm impressed. What more can I say? If you're thinking about buying a second-hand car, then do consider the Focus facelifted model. It's a nice modern design. It feels good, it drives well. I shouldn't think it's going to cost the earth in fuel, especially for a 1.6 litre engine. Anyway, thank you for watching everybody. I thought I'd just run through this car because I've never actually gone through a Focus yet, So now I've done it. If I do get a Mark 1 Focus, we have got some here, but it's just none available at the minute. I'll try and go for one of them at a later date. Anyway, thanks again everybody. I guess I'll see you all in the next one. Adios.